Good evening and welcome to WION. I'm Aisha Sindhu. On this special broadcast at 7, we turn our attention to the mutilation of 2 Indian soldiers in the Krishna Ghati sector of Jammu and Kashmir. The Indian Army has alleged that Pakistan has carried out this heinous act. Pakistan, for its part, has maintained that it has nothing to do with either the cross-border violations or with the mutilation of the 2 Indian men. This is the big story in India this hour. The Indian Army has said that 2 Jawans were killed in unprovoked firing by Pakistan on Monday morning and that their bodies were mutilated. The Indian Army has also warned of appropriate action and response for this despicable act. The soldiers who were killed, an army personnel and a constable for the Border Security Force or the BSF, were part of a team on patrol between the 2 forward posts in the Krishna Ghati sector along the line of control that was attacked by Pakistan. Now, today's developments will only add to the seething tension between the 2 neighbouring countries at a time when an Indian national, Kulbhushan Jadhav, has been sentenced to death by a Pakistan military tribunal after being convicted of espionage. India has repeatedly asked for consular access to Mr. Jadhav but has been denied not once, not twice, but on 14 occasions. Let's now listen in to what senior leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party and India's Finance Minister Arun Jaitley had to say on this latest incident.
This is a reprehensible and an inhuman act. Such attacks don't even take place during war, let alone peace. Bodies of soldiers being mutilated is an extreme form of barbaric act. The Government of India strongly condemns this act, and the whole country has full confidence and faith in our armed forces, which will react appropriately to this inhuman act. The sacrifice of these 2 soldiers will not go in vain.
All right, let's also listen in to some of the political reactions that have come in on this news. Here's what many members of India's political machinery have had to say.
We should corner Pakistan from all angles, militarily, economically, and also politically. We should take up this issue to the entire world and say that Pakistan should be declared a terror state. We should declare Pakistan a terror state. Why can't we do it? We should do it. And one more thing. The earlier, our Prime Minister appoints a permanent defense minister, better it will be.
We are very, very soft on this. Why are we soft? The Home Ministry and all, they are sitting and discussing what? They don't know what it is. Soldiers know what it is. I know what it is. Pakistan knows where he is going. They are going to just finish off Kashmir and take it over. Remember what I am saying.
I think that is falling to the lowest level of human behavior. I think it's a gross violation of human rights and needs to be condemned in very, very strong words. I'm sure Indian Army would give them a befitting reply.
All right, to talk more about this latest indiscretion on the part of the Pakistani Army, I am joined by a defense analyst and former Army officer, Colonel L.N. Thapar. He's in the studio with us. Also here is WION's chief domestic correspondent, Kartikeya Sharma. Also joining us from Gurugram in New Delhi's capital region is Major General Kuldeep Sindhu, also a former Army officer. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Colonel Thapar, I'll come to you first. Would you be surprised, or are you surprised by this latest indiscretion by the Pakistani Army as far as the mutilation of our men goes?
No, it's nothing has come as a surprise, because this beastly atavistic behavior is a trademark, is becoming a trademark of the Pakistani Army. It is most unsoldierly, most indecent, most ignoble action for any army to do, any uniformed force to do. A soldier who's dead in the battlefield, it requires all the respect that can be given to him. But here's a beastly enemy that we've got who sort of enjoys this gory kind of a behavior. And it is not, it is, in fact, when you talk about surprise, how can we be surprised? Because ever since Kargil War, if you recall Kargil War, we lost Captain Saurabh Kalia.
Yes, sir.
The way he was mutilated, it revolts the human being's, consciousness when you saw his body completely mutilated. Then we had these two boys, Hemraj and his colleague, who were, again beheaded and mutilated. We had before that a chap called Ilyas Kashmiri.
Yes, sir.
Now this guy went and cut the head of a dead soldier and took it with him all the way to Pakistan and presented it to Musharraf. Musharraf gave him a cash present then and there of 8,000 rupees. So that's the type of gory glee they get out of doing this kind of a thing. And they all the time forget that the prisoners are with us also. We also kill people.
Right.
I mean, in war, when we are uniformed people fighting each other, these things will happen. And therefore, it does not behove well of any professional army to do this kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
They should particularly see it in the light that we had 93,000 prisoners at one moment of time. Out of them, 260 odd chaps were declared war criminals,
right,
against whom we could have done anything and nobody would have asked anything.
All right.
But we set an example, and this is what you get in return. So therefore, it shows somewhere something wrong with our own setup.
Would you agree, General Sindhu, that there's something wrong in the way India has reacted so far, and India's largesse when it comes to prisoners of war within India is being misused and taken advantage of by the Pakistani army?
I think, Aisha, there's no doubt about that. Temperance up to a certain point is absolutely fine. One thing about our army, which I must confess, is that we have risen to a level of military statesmanship. For the Pakistanis to deny that this thing happened, these soldiers didn't mutilate themselves. Nobody dropped from the sky to mutilate them. This has happened right on the border. My experience has been that their Pakistani post commanders are fully aware of it. What is most reprehensible is the news that I heard that the Pakistani army chief was in the neighborhood. If he has allowed this to happen, it is absolutely reprehensible. No professional army does a thing like this. I recall a case way back in the US Army, 1973 roundabout. There was an officer called Lieutenant Kelly. When he carried out a massacre of these Vietnamese, he was tried by court-martial. Any officer or any person under my command, had he done a thing like this, I would have on-the-spot court-martialed him. We expect the Pakistani army to behave like soldiers. They have a problem. The question is it reprehensible? There's no question. The Indian armies or the Indian government stands to be rather temperate. You cannot just keep condemning things.
Right, sir.
It's all right.
Stay with us, General. I've also got my colleague, WION senior correspondent Raghvendra Rao joining us on the broadcast. Raghvendra, I'll get a question across to you in just a second. I just want to take some of that across to Kartikeya. Kartikeya, the rules of engagement different when it comes to India and Pakistan. The General there mentioning an incident with the US Army. Is the expectation from a sovereign state like Pakistan that it would uphold the basic decorum when it comes to engagement, and that is something perhaps that is asking too much when it comes to Pakistan?
This is gross violation of the Geneva Protocol. India won a war with Pakistan in 71. More than 2 lakh prisoners of war were there in Indian territory, held for more than a month. No one was killed, no one was mutilated. As very rightly pointed out, even during the Kargil war, the bodies which were given to us of our soldiers were mutilated, but Indian Army gave an honorable burial to the soldiers of the light northern infantry, whereas Pakistan was one which disowed their own soldier. So I think, Pakistani army, the barbaric, these are metaphors, but what it reflects is that it behaves like a mercenary force. There is a lack of discipline, and I think international community should just wake up and smell the coffee, that, you have an unruly state, a rogue state there, who's in command of the nukes, who's a nuclear capable nation, and you have an army which is trying to pilfer down those, the nuclear command and control, so that they can be used at the tactical level. And this is something which has been part and parcel of the American intelligence. So, it worries us. The discipline of the Pakistani army worries us. And I think there has to be much more international UN cry over this. Because, America, Britain, France, they will talk about Syria, West Asia. But there is also a problem of Kashmir, whereby events like this portray and highlight the mercenary part of the Pakistani army, which needs to be tackled, because Pakistan goes to UN every time talking about Kashmir. But what about these issues?
Colonel WION Thapar, you wanted to come in?
I want to submit that we should get over this comforting feeling that we should export this problem to somebody else, Britain, America, UN and all. It is our problem, we must tackle it. We must be quite capable of tackling this problem. The sooner we learn this, the better it will be. It is a kind of a cancerous growth which we are allowing to degenerate. We are not tackling it. And we must tackle it hard and proper. We got one window of opportunity, when we carried out the surgical strike.
Right.
But we allowed that initiative to wither away. We should have
pressed
on with that kind of more surgical strikes and put the enemy at his place.
All right, I'll come to you more about when you say we have failed. I'll ask you, I'll press you further on that question, but let me go across to Raghvendra Rao as well. Raghvendra, do you think, as Kartikeya is pointing out, there's so many semantics when it comes to India and Pakistan. Multilateralism is completely off the table. India has maintained that from the very start. Do you think that the Pakistani army is also taking advantage of the fact that there's so many smoke and mirrors sort of situations when it comes to the line of control, that it's easily usable or let's just say misused to carry out transgressions such as the one that we've heard of just today?
Well, Aisha, everybody is very clear about the fact about who runs the show in Pakistan. It's not the civilian government there, but it is actually the military which runs the show, and it's an open secret. Now, when something like this happens, I would reckon it is not just a stray or a random incident where Pakistani soldiers have chosen to mutilate bodies of Indian soldiers. I would see it as well as the Indian security establishment is seeing it as, these are deliberate acts to provoke. These are acts which you engage in with the sole intention of provoking the other side. Nothing else explains the fact that, it's a warlike situation in Kashmir for decades now. There has been a ceasefire in place, but off and on shelling keeps on happening. Off and on these ceasefire violations keep on happening. For the soldier posted at the line of control on both sides, it is a warlike situation. So when something like this happens, when bodies of soldiers are mutilated, it's not just mutilation. It is not just it's not just something which happens in the routine course of things. It is a clear message to the Indian side. It is a clear intention to provoke the Indian side, and it is, it's a message that the Pakistani side is trying to send to the Indian side by engaging in such acts and then by disowning them at the first available instance. That is exactly what they have done today also. A formal denial has come from the Pakistani side saying that no mutilation happened as far as these bodies were concerned. So this is a kind of cat and mouse game that has been going on, but an incident as serious as this cannot be, brushed aside thinking that, this would be part of the regular or routine activities which keep happening on the line of control. It's a well thought out, well calibrated, clearly intentioned assault that has been perpetrated on the Indian soldiers.
Fair enough. Stay with me, Raghvendra. I'm also joined on the phone line by WION's Pakistan Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui. Taha, the ISPR maintaining very categorically that Pakistan has nothing at all to do with this instance along the line of control. How significant is General Bajwa's visit to the other side of the line of control in the Buttar sector? How important are these two events when looked at together?
Well, if we see that the way the army chief's visit comes at the same time when there is a lot of pressure on the Pakistani civilian leadership, and there were these rumors with regards to the visit of the Indian businessman Jindal, which was criticized a lot because he was on a personal visit meeting the Prime Minister. So given all of that context, and then the army chief visiting the line of control and saying and talking about India yesterday, and then this incident happens today. So definitely there seems to be sort of a chain of sort of actions happening here. In a way, what a few analysts that I've spoken to in Pakistan say is that it appears that Pakistan and India, the border is flaring up again, which we had seen sort of relative calm over the last few months, ever since the new army chief had come. It is going again into the flare-up sort of period, which we usually see on and off. And it's probably given the local analysis here in Pakistan says that it has to do a lot with the fact that the Pakistan military is sort of in a way saying that it's in charge of the Indian policy, and
right.
It's sending a message to the civilians domestically here and also across the border to India, definitely.
General Sindhu, do you agree that the tenuous relationship that exists between the civilian leadership and the military leadership in Pakistan is only making the situation worse for India? We're seeing the Pakistani military trying to wrest control, trying to re-establish its authority, and perhaps these incidents need to be looked at in line with that as well.
You're absolutely right. Your analysis is correct that there is a rift between the Pakistani army and the civilian establishment. In fact, some months back, this came out very clearly when they had to pull up some journalists for that. Now, the question is, the Pakistani army was a professional army for as long as we know. This is the same army that fought like soldiers. In 1971, I recall there was an incident where a Pakistani commanding officer challenged an Indian the battalion commander to fight it out rather than speak. The same army has come down to such cowardly acts of having to mutilate soldiers and prove their macho image. I cannot believe it. I think it is high time that the Pakistani leadership exercise control over its subordinate commanders if they have not been doing so, because otherwise it is going to descend into anarchy at their level.
All right. Kartikeya, tell me something. We keep talking about India's approach to Pakistan, how India does not want intervention from other states. But who does India deal with when it comes to Pakistan? Does it deal with the military leadership? Does it deal with the civilian leadership? And is this lack of clarity as far as communication channels doing a disservice to any chance of peace in the region?
That's the biggest paradox. For example, I'll start my answer with an analogy. When India was able to resolve this, when it came to Myanmar, because India also supported the movement towards democracy, but ultimately it had to deal with the military there. Now, issue is twofold. Their military was wanting to deal with us, and we had the China factor there. The problem with Pakistan is institutional and intrinsic. You might want to have a political dialogue with the Pakistani political establishment, which is very elite. But the Islamization of the Pakistani society, which started when Zia-ul-Haq became the general, has completely changed the political landscape of Pakistan. Secondly, within the army, and I have no qualm in saying, they have got an institutional hatred towards India, which is instilled in the rank. See, the behavior of, or the act of beheading is one part of the larger culture which is being built. Indian army is not trained to hate Pakistan or China or Sri Lanka, but that is something which is inbuilt, to hate India. People say that it's because of history, but the fact of the matter is it corrupts the discourse for those who want to have a dialogue. And that's where the problem is. And it gets complicated because of one fact, it's also in possession of the nuclear weapons.
All right. Colonel Thapar, do you feel that India's reactions to these transgressions has been limited to lip service so far, barring, of course, the public consumption of the surgical strike that took place last year? Prime Minister Modi very categorically, utilizing it also as a campaign issue. But do you feel that India has done enough to protect its soldiers, and do you feel that there's far more that is needed if the point has to be driven across the border?
There is a philosophical plane at which the debate was going on. I want to come down to the ground. It is high time we erase the line that we draw between the non-state actors like the jihadis and the Taliban and all those, and the Pakistani army. I say that all actions hostile to India which are emanating from Pakistan must be reacted to as though they have been done by the Pakistani army either directly or abetted it through these non-state actors. And we must act. There should be no further discussion on that point. Any act of violence that comes from the state of Pakistan must not be further, finely, microscopically looked at. It has just come from there, and we must react to it.
Okay.
That is the first point. The second point is the mode in which we are functioning. It must now transit from a reactionary mode with a lot of patience inbuilt in it to a proactive mode.
Okay.
Unless we do that, we will keep on landing in the receiving end. We will always be receiving end. It's like, a boxer, the other guy is punching, you're not doing anything, you get another punch.
So you're saying get off the defensive tactic
not defensive,
and move towards taking
stop
action.
on the catching up.
Yeah, you should be more proactive than reactive.
Okay.
Presently what happens is now an incident has taken place, now we'll punish them. But these kinds of proactive actions should be well contemplated, well conceived, planned for that contingency, and as soon as this kind of a occurrence takes place, something must happen somewhere so that Pakistan knows it is punishment for that particular action that they have done.
Okay, General Sindhu, do you feel that the Indian Army is receives the right kind of backing from as far as the civilian leadership of India goes? Does it have the ability to carry out the kind of proactive action that Colonel Thapar is referring to, or does that seem lacking in your opinion? And does the government in India, whichever one it is, whichever ruling dispensation is around at that point in time, needs to make the Indian Army feel far more comfortable if it is to take out this kind of action?
You're absolutely right, and what Colonel Thapar has said is absolutely spot on. The civilian government's actions, reaction, their spoken word has not been steady. They have not followed a steady line. Something happens, we react. It is important for Pakistan to know that the cost of any such violation, particularly of human rights, will meet with very, very stiff resistance and action on our part. We are talking about appropriate action. I say overwhelming action. We cannot be, of course, saying that the warmongering nation. We have made that very clear to everybody. We wish peace with Pakistan, but peace not at the cost of our own integrity, not at the cost of our own soldiers' lives. That point has to be made absolutely clear. Unless and until that message goes across to Pakistan and to the Pakistani leadership that we are prepared to go to the extreme end, whatever that be, that is for the civilian government and for the senior leadership of the army to decide. But the response has to be overwhelming. I recall that during Parakram, the then chief, General Musharraf, had said, what happened? Only 4 people attacked parliament and you're so worried? The institutions of the Indian army, the institutions of the Indian establishment, if they are attacked, to us, it is a grave, grave sin on the part of the other side. It is not a minor matter. Losing soldiers in this bestial manner is totally unacceptable. Firstly, from the point of view of any army that is facing us, and secondly, our own moral point of view. We have to take action.
Allow me to come in, General Colonel Thapar. We're running out of time on the program, but very quickly, summing up, do you feel that what happened last year with the surgical strike is a step in the right direction, but the momentum was lost, as you were saying, and India really needs to push that offensive forward if they want to make the right kind of point?
No, I am convinced about it. Whatever is now being contemplated should have been done long ago. Today you are feeling so restive about, so uncomfortable, so bad about what has happened to these two soldiers. What are we going to do? Whatever we had to do today, we should have done when Saurabh Kalia's case took place. Over 10 lakh people have signed that petition. Nothing has happened. And we keep on talking about United Nations, international. We've got to find solutions to our problems ourselves. And not, you were talking about cat and mouse game. I think it's only a mouse, no cat at all. I mean, what reaction should come? Nice and tough reaction. Such a reaction that is punitive in nature.
Right.
That will put them in their place once and for all. But that's not happening.
Karthikeyan?
And let me also, give me 1 second more.
Go, sir. Go ahead.
I believe, I am very clear that this nuclear bogey must be knocked out once and for all. You see, there is enough space between the nuclear threshold and the conventional war to take this kind of action. We don't have to resort to either nuclear fear or nuclear threat. We've got enough space in between to carry out a punitive action.
All right, Karthikeya, very quickly, summing up your closing comments.
See, my understanding is that I agree with him that, there has to be some proactiveness. You can't have a catching up in terms of once Pakistan does this, then we get our action together and organize a big surgical strike. I think it should be a motion in continuation whereby the people or the officers at those regional sectors should be empowered enough to take a decision and initiate an action within 12 hours or 48 hours. That sort of autonomy should be there. I think that's where I agree, and I think that's where the deterrence would lie.
All right. So clearly there's a lot more that needs to be done if the message has to be put across. Let's just hope the political leadership of the country is able to take it up the way I'm sure the armed forces really do want it to. I'm unfortunately out of time on the program, but I will thank each and every one of you. Colonel WION Thapar, thank you very much for gracing our studios with your presence. Also, Karthikeya Sharma, my colleague Raghvendra Rao and Taha Siddiqui, and of course Major General Kuldeep Sindhu. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here with us. This is Aisha Sindhu signing off on this show for now. More news and updates follow on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.